Hey everybody, just wanted to take a few seconds of your time before the podcast starts. Just wanted to let you know about a passion project of mine for the last 3 years called Hustle Focused Energy. It's a powdered drink mix intended to help you focus and accomplish your goals. Super excited to bring this to market. Go check it out, hustletheday.com. And thank you so much for listening. On this episode of the Hustle the Day podcast, we have Anita Morin on the show. Anita is a physician's assistant turned video marketing strategist and agency owner that deals with content repurposing. We talk a lot about the power of video and how it helps your business. You're going to want to listen to this one. Let's jump into it. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Hustle the Day podcast. My name is Trent. Super excited to have Anita Morin here. Anita, tell us a little bit about yourself and, a little bit about your story.
Sure. Well, as you said, my name is Anita, and I am a wife, mother, and physician assistant who became an unexpected entrepreneur. And I own a business called FDS Creatives, where I help business owners get visible to bring in more leads, income, and impact. So that's what I do.
Very cool. So, everybody wants more leads in their business. Everybody wants to create that impact. What is the angle of approach that you take personally to help businesses in that regard?
So I work in video marketing and content repurposing, social media strategy realms. And so what I really help business owners do is connect to their audience in the unique way that they need. See, one of the lies that people believe is that they have to be everywhere, but really you just have to be where your ideal client is. Most of my clients actually find that YouTube is the answer that they're looking for because it's the number 2 search engine in the world. And I can tell you your ideal client is using Google. Google owns YouTube. So we absolutely know that's a good place for business owners to be. But what I find that they struggle with is how to be there and how to stand out. And so that's something I help with. As well as helping them then use that content on social media effectively and natively to platforms.
Yeah, very cool. And I love your strategy on this. Can you explain your strategy in terms of why you're using YouTube rather than, say Instagram or, some of the other popular social media outlets?
Sure. So because your ideal client is searching, one of the things you have to know is they are looking for you, and they might not know your name and they might not know your business name yet, but they absolutely know that they have a problem. The reason people go to YouTube is to find the answer to a problem. And so when they're typing in their general questions or things that they'd like to know, videos are popping up. And ultimately, what I try to explain this as is that your ideal client is, already on the highway looking, and they've decided they're going to get off at a particular exit. What you decide is, am I going to build a billboard next to that exit or not? Right? Because they're already going to type that in. So it's just a matter of, do you want to be found? And if so, then leveraging search via YouTube is really beneficial. For my YouTube videos, each one has views, but those views are coming from different people. So the same people who are watching maybe the video I put up last week are not the same people who are maybe watching, the 2 videos before that, because they're each uniquely positioned to search.
Yeah, that's awesome. And you know what? The great thing is it lives on too over time, so that even if they don't catch it the first week, with things like Instagram, those things just start getting buried. But with YouTube, it's always going to be there, and it's always going to be searchable and indexable. And so people can still find it 7 years later, like when me personally was using YouTube last year to diagnose problems with one of my cars that, is a little bit older, and, is a video that popped up from 7-8 years ago. That still helped me and served me. So that's a really unique proposition that YouTube provides versus some of the other outlets?
Yeah, so what you're hitting on there is the difference between search and interruption. And what we're hoping for with Instagram and Facebook, LinkedIn, even TikTok, right? You're trying to stop the scroll. And there's a lot of really great ways you can do that. But ultimately, when I have a problem and I type in my question into the Facebook search bar or the Instagram search bar, you might not come up because it's not meant to be a search engine. Ultimately, those platforms are great and can drive a lot to a business, but the more sustainable part of business is really search-based. And so in my own business, videos that I have put up 6, 8, 10 months ago have received views this week. And part of that is strategy. And whenever I say that, I often connect with people who will then reach out and say, well, I put YouTube videos up and I got no views. Well, like any tool, if we don't use it properly, you absolutely won't get the results you want. So positioning those videos via true search with YouTube strategy is going to be the difference between those getting seen now and next week, next year, or them not.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great way to think of it. I mean, I could hammer in a nail with the end of a crescent wrench, but it would work better to use a hammer.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So, I love the idea and your strategy behind all this. And, it really makes me rethink, in researching you before we talked, it made me rethink how I should be doing all this stuff. And the great thing is YouTube still provides an opportunity to give you that interruption marketing, like you're talking about, of, repurposing that content, taking those clips from your YouTube videos and then putting them towards the other social networks, which is something you do as well, correct?
Yes. So all of my content that's going on to my YouTube channel is batch filmed, meaning I film all my videos kind of together. And then I edit those videos, upload them, and have them scheduled. So like the video that's going to go live tomorrow has already been scheduled for quite some time. What I then have the opportunity to do is take that video and create clips and social media graphics, jump into my stories on Instagram and Facebook, make a TikTok video. There's a lot of ways I can promote that video. But ultimately, I consider my barrier of success each week that my video goes up. Because even if I do none of that promoting of my video, that video is still an evergreen asset for my business. And so as I'm planning out a quarter in my business, the first thing I do in my calendar is go through and mark Tuesdays a new video is going up. That's what I'm committed to. And so because of that, I have shared on social and with you that we're actually expecting a little one in November. When I'm thinking about planning my business for when I expect a baby, the number one thing I'm thinking about is, can I keep my clients' work good and moving forward, which absolutely that comes first. And then next, can I keep my YouTube channel going? Because if nothing else happens, I'm successful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's the great thing is, like you said, you can schedule that content out well in advance. Like for example, this podcast isn't going to go out for a couple months, but I will have it up and scheduled and ready to go so that, even if I'm busy one week doing something else, doing some client work or, whatever the case may be, or I'm out of town with family, I can still have that go up. I can still have that content out there, and that can drive things naturally.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
the question is, YouTube has kind of its own algorithm. Are you playing more towards, are you spending a lot of time working on the headline and the content piece inside, or the caption piece rather? And how does that relate to the search results? Or is it more attacking from the search side and then crafting the message around that?
Yeah, so every video that I create, I actually start with really researching what are people searching for. That's how I determine the content that I'm going to create. Because here's the thing, you and I can create videos that we are super excited about with great content, but if we don't position them well and nobody's looking for that, they're not going to get views. It's not going to do anything for my business. So instead I look for what is my audience already typing in that they're looking for, and then how can what I really know and what my zone of genius is show up in that search. So first I come up with all of my titles, and then that leads to me figuring out, okay, well, what would I want to say in a video about that? From there, filming all of my videos is really based on the strategies that keep people interested in watching a video. Believe it or not, there's a lot of psychology in creating a video. And so that's the difference between videos that are really engaging and helpful to watch and those that aren't. And then from there, how we edit those videos plays a large part into whether or not people keep watching. Because the reality is, if the screen doesn't keep moving, you will leave because you're not getting that dopamine surge, right? And so making sure to keep having something happening in the video. And it doesn't have to be, high tech, but just kind of zooming in and out on your screen, having words pop up, changing the view of the camera. There's several ways that you can do that. That's really what I focus on as far as creating videos. But when you're looking to create videos on YouTube, there's two things that YouTube cares about: your click rate and your watch time. So how you get a good click rate is that you have to show up in search so people can click. So your title, your description, your tags, and your thumbnail all go into that. Your thumbnail is like a mini billboard for your YouTube video. And then your watch time is really that strategic filming and editing that helps people to watch longer, as well as making sure, of course, that you provide value so people can see that. So working with those things, those are the most important. A lot of people, when they're starting YouTube, they reach out and they ask me, okay, what great camera do I need? Or what lights do I need to order? But the reality is, there's no YouTuber out there that will tell you the higher, fancier camera is what made or break was able to make or break their YouTube channel. Really, it's that they can hear you, that they can see you. So having some sort of good light, and honestly, that can be a window. And most of my YouTube videos are actually filmed from my iPhone. And those that aren't are actually filmed from the built-in camera in my computer. And the reason is because you absolutely don't need fancy cameras. I have a nice camera, but I want to be relatable and helpful. And I want you to know that you can do this too with exactly what you have.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree. I have some background in photography, and people are always like, what's the lens that I should be using? It's like, well, do you understand how to use the camera first? Like, that's where you got to start. Don't worry about fancy equipment. Just worry about, getting the content, and you'll graduate from there. But, I think about some people who've had YouTube careers that have taken off. They start with an iPhone. It's only to the point where they can really hire it out that they get the fancy equipment and things like that. So I completely agree. Just the best camera you have is the one that's in front of you.
Absolutely. And remember also what your goals are. So for me, I'm not trying to be a YouTube star. I'm trying to find my ideal client to be a search, and I want them to be able to find me. If I was trying to do this for other reasons and having other goals, there's different ways that I would set up my channel, but the basics of this are the same. Absolutely. The camera you have is the best one.
Yeah. And I love the fact that you're actually starting with search, which actually is helpful for, creating the content, because a lot of people think, oh, I don't have the idea, what content should I be creating right now? You're basically going to where people are asking for the content and then creating that content for them, which is immensely helpful for somebody who, wears many hats and, has so many different parts in their business. You're just making it easy for them.
Sure. And I even have some clients who just come to me for that service. They feel comfortable filming the videos. They have a video editor. They're good with repurposing it onto social by themselves. But what they really need help with is, what do I make the video about and what do I call that video? And so those are really the things that I do. It's a very search intensive process that I do, but I really enjoy it. I think that comes from my personality. I like the back end and the why of things. And so I find a lot of enjoyment in finding the perfect title.
Okay.
It's like a puzzle.
Yeah, for sure. And, titles play a big part in, anything nowadays, whether it's YouTube or, even podcasting, that title can definitely make a difference. So now a question I have for you is, how does live video factor into this? So do you see some of your services going towards YouTube Live, or is that something that you don't see as a big part of your business?
So for some of my clients, I do help them to craft some of those live videos by helping them know what to make live videos about. They still need strategy with them even if they're organic within the YouTube platform. But the other way I see people use live video is using their live videos from other platforms and then putting them on YouTube. And there's a lot of different ways that we can kind of do that effectively. Some of that is helping them to know different ways to capture that original video, as well as once you are using that to repurpose onto YouTube, making sure that you are positioning that again with that strategy and that search. So for a lot of my clients, when they are creating their videos, and let's say they're going live on Facebook, one of the things I have them do is strategically pause at different points where they're going to interact with the audience based on making sure they're not in the middle of a sentence or a point. So then I can edit out some of that interaction so it still seems organic to YouTube. Another thing that can be really beneficial when doing it on those platforms is to remember that Facebook downgrades video quality. And it's very sad that that happens, but it does. And so really making sure you've got great lighting, keeping your background really simple, all of those things can really help at least make it look the best possible. So there's a lot of different ways we can use live, whether within YouTube or repurposed. And absolutely, I see it beneficial, but nothing is as effective as content that is recorded for YouTube and actually put on YouTube. Even that repurposed onto other platforms does better than the live video repurposed onto YouTube.
Okay. Yeah, that's good information. So you are a physician's assistant by trade. How does YouTube play into this? Like, where did this come from? Like, where did you get excited about video marketing and decide, hey, I'm going to start this as a side hustle?
Sure. Well, much before I ever was a physician assistant, I was getting my bachelor's in undergrad, and I was looking for a way to balance all of my classes and still make sure that I could pay rent. And so at the time, the YouTube beauty community, believe it or not, was very popular as a thing to do. And so I started creating makeup tutorials and doing product reviews on YouTube. And from doing that, I was able to contract with other brands, as well as to review products that they sent me, do collaborations, build a following on Twitter when Twitter was like actually the place to be. And from that, I was really able to make an income to really help with what, college students needed, which is like rent and food and whatnot.
And
that was a really
makeup.
great. Yeah, it was a really great experience for me. And I really enjoyed it, but I never would have considered that a business. I just thought it was something fun to do that happened to benefit into income. And then after I had my son, I had long deleted my YouTube channel and gone into medicine and felt really good about everything I was doing. And then I found that I really wanted to be home with him and really have that freedom of time with him. We homeschool my son, and that's really important to me. And I wanted to be here for that. And so when I was really investigating, okay, well, what can I do? I really found the online business world. And as I started to see, different offerings that people had and what it was that I knew how to do, I started to see how I could really uniquely serve them and really help them get the time that was so valuable to me. And so everything I've created as far as offers has always been with that in mind, that I want to help business owners really have efficient and effective marketing. Because for most of us, right, we didn't necessarily go into business to just create content for our business all the time. We had something we wanted to do or a person we wanted to serve. And I wanted to help people appropriate their time well, while knowing that content is important, and also really have the time for the why they started the business for. Like, my business is not successful if all of my time is spent on my business, because it doesn't meet the why of me being home with my son and really focusing on him, right? So in my own business and the businesses of my clients, I've seen that time is absolutely such a gift, and I want to help as many people with that as possible.
Wow, that's fantastic. I love that you've got, such a strong why behind it, because a lot of people don't have that. And it's really helpful in those days when you don't want to do that work. It really helps push you through by, having that why. And I love the family aspect of it, being a father of three, I love my kids, and why I chose entrepreneurship is that I have that ability to craft that time around them, so I can ride my bike home from school with my daughter every day, and things like that. Those are incredibly important to me, and obviously incredibly important to you as well, which is great.
Yeah.
So where do you see this going in the future? Do you plan to go back to being a PA after this baby is born, or is it are you going to be pushing forward more with the YouTube side of things?
So I love medicine, and I loved the opportunity to help patients. And that was such a gift to my life, has made me a better business owner, absolutely, and a better mother. But I don't have any plans to run back to the medical field. The medical field has changed quite a bit in the last several years, and particularly after COVID really being introduced and the pandemic. And the effects of that on hospitals and health insurance and whatnot. And so there's a lot of things that I see. One of the struggles I had in medicine was really wanting to help more people than I could. And what I found in the online space is that first and foremost, I obviously can help my family. But secondly, what we do in online business can actually change people's lives and different ways than I ever imagined. And so I fully love what I'm doing now. It gives me a freedom and a benefit that I never could have had in the medical field. And I won't say I'll never go back. I'm keeping my license, and one day that might be something I do. But in the short term, while my son is, almost 4 and I have a new little one on the way, my priority really is focusing and making sure that I'm here for them, and that I'm able to really invest in them during their formative years, and really help to grow what I hope will be amazing people in the world. And so because of that, no, I have no plans to run back. But I'll also say when I finally did leave my job in medicine and go full-time in my business, the amount of growth in my business is more than I ever could have anticipated. And and so because of that, more than I imagined or even asked for has occurred. And I'm just really grateful. And so I want to continue with this because it's, any job that we have in life, it's to help us with our goals. And this meets my goals and my family's goals quite well.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm glad to hear that, business is going so well for you. And, that's always what you want to hear. But I completely agree that the impact that entrepreneurship makes, you can impact so many more people through that than you could through a traditional job. Even in medicine, there's obviously still an ability to impact people through what you're doing now. So you end up starting this, to spend more time with your family, and you still had a full-time job. But as you started this, as you started FDS Creatives, what would you say is a challenge that you never expected to have happen?
Sure. When I started my business, I actually was part-time in medicine. So I was working about 3 days a week. So that did give me a little bit more time than I would have had if I was full-time. One of the challenges I ran into at first was trying to balance the job I was creating at work, and then also the business I was creating, and then the child that I was taking care of. My son now is almost 4, but in the first 2 years of his life, I pretty much couldn't put him down. They nicknamed babies like him Velcro babies, and that's exactly what it felt like. And so I think what was difficult there was me always wanting to make sure that I was putting him first, because the temptation in both of the job and the business was, well, if I can just, focus more on that, then that's helping my family in this like monetary way. But the investment that I made into my son really was the most important thing, and keeping my priorities straight in that, and having to remind myself, he needs me at bedtime tonight, even though everyone says just leave him in his room and he will be fine. My son is not that way. and so just remembering that I have to mother the child I'm given, and I have to work within that being my first priority. I will say it was hard to do that at first. And then once I really got kind of the hang of that, it was really realizing and being happy with what I was doing as far as all the people I was helping at the time, and really figuring out how to help them best. I think one of the biggest things I've learned as a business owner is just because I can do something to help somebody doesn't mean it's the best thing for them. And really being confident in what I know actually works versus maybe what they wanted help with. And a perfect example would be, so I offer social media strategy and help, but there's a lot of people who just want someone who will fill their feed just so they can keep posting. But I think that isn't actually effective and helpful if it doesn't have strategy behind it. And so I actually stopped offering to just fill people's feeds. And that was a scary thing to choose, but I knew I was choosing it for the best of business owners. And what that did was lead to, of course, growth in my business and help. But at the time it felt like, I'm saying no to helping people. But it was really, I was saying no to maybe wasn't what was most helpful. And I was saying yes to advocating for their best, just as I would do with my son.
Yeah, that's awesome. I appreciate that you understood that, and that you were willing to take that risk and, change things up to better serve people rather than get more money for yourself to not help people.
Yeah. The most important thing that I, talk about is effective and efficient marketing, right? And that terminology just sounds good because it's, 2 E's and it all flows. But the reality is, if we really talk about marketing being effective, that means it's got to lead to some sort of growth and actually work within that business owner's business so that it's not a drain on their time or their resources, right? And then when we say that we want it to be efficient, right, it means that we want it to be really pointed to what is actually going to move the needle forward in their business, right? And so when I really think about those two tenets of what I'm trying to do, that helps to narrow down a lot of the things I might be asked to do. Because if we really want the best for someone, right, then we're going to advocate for whatever's going to help them the most. So
yeah, very cool. So one question that I've been asking people more lately, because we're all creative people, and with you specifically, you've got to think about keywords, you've got to think of video ideas and all these different things. Where is it that you find that you do your best thinking?
I would say really at my computer. I have a desk in my room, which I use, and I have tried over time to kind of be more mobile and, and take my laptop other places. But there's something about having a designated place to work that's really helpful. And I think one of the reasons that it's beneficial to me is because on the wall, right by my computer, I keep 3 calendars taped to the wall, and they are for the 3 months of the quarter that we're currently in. And so when I sit down, I'm actually looking at, about a 90-day spread and really saying, what can I do in that time? How am I meeting my goals? It's where I track all of the different things in my business, and it's literally on the wall. But I do that because, there's something about it being a visual for you at all times. And so when I have moments in my business where I'm like, oh, I don't know, I don't really want to do this right now, right? All I have to do is look at the wall next to me and remember, what my goals were and why it's worth putting in the effort now for the benefit that I want. So.
Wow, that's great. Yeah, having that visual cue is definitely beneficial in multiple ways. Of like we talked before we started recording, I've got a content calendar that I have to sit there and look at to help myself be creative in a way, so that when that creative strike hits, I know exactly what I'm creating towards. And it's a little bit different from the way you use your calendar, but I mean, just the visual cue in general is really helpful for someone.
Oh, yes. And that's just helped me work through like the momentary, oh, maybe I'm a little bit tired right now, or maybe like I hear my little one in the backyard with my husband running around. Maybe I'll go play with them when I really need to spend like that hour of time that I have. So it helps with that.
Well, cool. Well, speaking of an hour of time, we've been talking for a little while, and I want to be cognizant of your time, and so that you can focus on your goals. But before we get into the last question, I want to ask you, where is it that people can best find information about you?
So ultimately, the best place to find me is on YouTube, and my channel is my business name, FDS Creatives. But of course, that's my website as well. And I have a Facebook business page that you can follow if you're interested in that.
Perfect. I'll make sure to include links in the show description as well. But the final question I want to ask you, personal or business, what is it that excites you about the future?
I mean, the easiest thing to say is the child that I'm about to have. So I'm so excited to welcome another little one to my family. And my son is so excited, which makes it even more exciting. His number one question is the baby coming today? And I'm like, I hope not. We still have time. So I love that he is so excited and has this whole list of things he wants to teach the baby. We had to have a discussion that baby doesn't come out running. So they can't run in the backyard on day one. That was his original plan. So, but I would say otherwise, it's just the possibility really of what my business can do and what that can change for my family. Because right now we're doing something that I never imagined possible, which is that I'm actually home with my son full time. And the beauty of that is he knows it. We were in Target yesterday and just getting groceries. And I'm pushing him around in the cart, and he says, "Mommy, Daddy's at work?" And I said, "Yes." And he said, "And when are you going to work?" And I said, "Well, buddy, Mommy decided to stay home with you, and so I work in Mommy's room, but I'm not going to a job." And he said, "But you used to go. You used to go on Mondays, Tuesdays, and Fridays." And I said, "Yes." And he goes, "Thanks for not doing that anymore." And it was just like, I don't know what inspired him, the things on the shelves, but it was, he notices. And I know that he's going to notice as our life continues to change based on the opportunities my business allows, the difference and that's exciting.
Yeah, that is absolutely exciting. Well, thank you for taking time out of your day and, being a part of the podcast. I really appreciate that. I know I've gotten a ton of value out of this, so I know my audience has gotten a ton of value out of this. So I encourage you all to get out there and hustle the day.
Hey, thanks for listening all the way through. Sincerely appreciate it. But hey, since you're here on YouTube, I have a favor to ask. If you got any value out of this podcast, and I know you did, go ahead, hit the subscribe, the like, and the bell notification buttons. That sincerely helps us out, and I truly appreciate anybody who does that.